today on Dr. Phil.
You were the facialist to the stars.
Accused of hiring a hitman to murder her rival.
You think you've got somebody trying to poach your clients. Did you solicit someone to kill this man?
It was one of those, oh, I could kill this person. I should find someone to take him out.
The exclusive interview.
You typed out a text message. I have found someone that can do this deed for me. It was a story that could have been ripped straight from the pages of a Hollywood whodunit. A real-life murder-for-hire mystery. At the center of the scandal, a striking blonde facialist to the stars. Dawn DeLuise was known for working her magic on the skin of Tinseltown's A-list celebrities. But she went from a glamorous skincare guru to a drained-looking inmate charged with plotting to murder a rival. Take a look.
A story of beauty, celebrity, and an alleged murder plot.
An ugly beauty battle. A salon owner is accused of hiring a hitman to murder her business rival.
The skin specialist to the stars, Dawn DeLuise, is accused in a murder-for-hire plot that sounds like a Hollywood script. Prosecutors believe she tried to hire someone to kill a rival esthetician.
Gabriel Suarez owns Smooth Cheeks. 2 doors down is another esthetician. Catering to celebrities, her business has been here for years.
Cops say Dawn thought her competitor and neighboring salon owner wasn't just stealing her business, but also posting explicit and raunchy Craigslist ads claiming Dawn was seeking a man to fulfill her rape fantasies, even listing her address to direct potential males to her doorstep. Cops say Dawn went into a rage and tried to contact an old friend, a former NFL player, to murder her competition. Cops arrested Dawn and charged her with solicitation of murder.
Today, in an exclusive interview, Dawn DeLuise is speaking out publicly for the very first time since she was vindicated, acquitted of all charges, and released. She is joined by her attorney, Jamon Hicks. Her story has shocking twist. You won't believe what she claims really happened. You have had an interesting couple of years here, starting about 2 years ago.
Yes.
You were charged with solicitation for murder.
Yes.
And solicitation for assault.
Yes.
Of a competitor. Someone that was in the same business, sort of.
Sort of, yes.
And were charged with soliciting someone, a hitman, essentially, to kill Gabriel Suarez. Where was the first time you had a studio where you met Gabriel Suarez?
That was when I was in West Hollywood.
And how did you meet him then?
A hairstylist came to me one day and said, there's a gentleman at the foot of your stairs who's passing out business cards. Ultimately, it led to a shop that had just opened right across the street. The gentleman that owned it hired an assistant who was Gabriel Suarez.
You were doing like really well, right? You were the facialist to the stars, as people referred to you that way. Who were some of your clients at the time?
Oh goodness. Jennifer Aniston, Courtney Cox, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Christina Ricci, Alicia Silverstone, Christian Slater, Ted Danson.
Now you've got somebody at the bottom of your stairs trying to poach your clients. Did you have any conversation with him at the time, this Suarez?
No, just what would be reported back to me by my clients,
okay.
And I
They
saw
just tell
him.
you, okay. She made a new bad boy friend of sorts with a guy named Nick Prugo. Prugo is best known for being the ringleader of the Hollywood Bling Ring, a group of thieves who stole luxury items from celebrities. Now, Dawn says she thought she could partner with him as he tried to extend his 15 minutes of fame in Hollywood. She had no idea that Nick Prugo would be what she claims was the first domino that led to her being tried for murder for hire. Now, explain who Nick Prugo is and how you met him.
Nick Prugo was attached to a series of crimes in the late 2000s that involved robbing homes of celebrities, Paris Hilton, Lindsay Lohan, along with other teens. And it became a story called The Bling Ring, a book, and ultimately a movie. I was good friends with the writer. When I went to meet her for a happy hour, she was ending an interview with him.
You, at some point, decide that you're going to manage his career?
The idea of a reality show came up because he had a parole officer breathing down his neck with some urgency to getting employment right away.
But it fell apart. How did it fall apart?
This was around the same time that Nick began to bring another person to my clinic for skincare, a man named Edward Feinstein. And Nick's behavior began to change. Reluctant to go to meetings, wanting advance pay, which was just ridiculous, and I dropped him as a client.
But he's introduced you to Feinstein.
Correct.
And does Feinstein give you information on his behavior?
Yes, he does. And that's where I developed a bit of a camaraderie, if you will, with Feinstein. He began to tell me things that Prugo was actively taking drugs and was hiding out from the parole officer and various things.
Did you trust Feinstein at the time?
Absolutely. Feinstein was generous with tips. Feinstein bought skincare products of mine. Feinstein would bring me a coffee from Starbucks. And usually that type of pattern tends to make me trusting of my clientele.
So when in this relationship with Feinstein does Suarez open this shop essentially next to you?
He officially hung out his shingle and began with clients in July.
But he's doing construction over there.
Yes.
Noisy.
Yes.
Irritating.
Oh, yes, very much so.
So you go down there?
No one who was there understood what I was saying, so I had to sort of pantomime, no knocking, and they'd stop for 10 minutes, and it would start back up again.
And eventually you run into him over there.
I came in and I said, can I help you? Because she was in my office, and she's like, oh good, a Mexican that speaks English.
You said I'm having a communication problem. Did you say I'm having a communication problem, or did you say finally a Mexican that speaks English?
No, I said, oh my goodness, good, you speak English, because I haven't been able to explain about the noise. He goes to introduce himself to me, and I said, I know who you are. In 2007, Gabriel Suarez was in my suite looking for a job. And I said, did you see any job postings? If you looked carefully, you saw the note on my landing that said by appointment only, and you're not supposed to be here. And he said, I'm Gabriel Suarez. And I said, I don't have any job openings, and I'm with a client right now. Would you please leave? And that was the end of my experience with him until I encounter him doing construction next door.
So that's the third time you met him, when he was doing
Correct.
construction. Or
Yes.
once you know about him, he's at the bottom of your stairs poaching clients, according
Right.
to you. I'm sure he might deny that if he was here, I don't know. Then you say you encounter him outside your treatment room
Yes.
door, and then again in the Smooth Cheeks suite where he's doing construction down there.
Yes.
Some things started happening to you. You started being harassed. And this began in about July of 13,
Yes, it
if
did.
I understand this right. And about this time, you start having some flat tires, right?
That's correct.
This is on the side of your tire, right? Somebody's slashing your tires. Did you realize at that point this is sabotage? Somebody's doing this?
Yes, it scared me.
This happened like 8 times?
Yes.
Then you start getting texts and calls. You got 1,600 to 2,000 texts and calls between November and February?
That's correct.
And tell me what these texts and calls were about.
Well, they started off harmless enough but strange. Is this Dawn? Or I saw you yesterday. I'm coming over tonight, things like that. And I just thought that they had found the wrong person. Then it started to be photos of my apartment, photos that were photoshopped of the car I owned with extensive damage done to it, photo of the Grim Reaper, photos of the home where my children lived. It might be a photo of my apartment, and a message would say, you forgot to put out your fireplace. I had the feeling at that time that someone was standing at my apartment. The texts kept getting worse. Threats were made about my children. I'm going to teach you a lesson, and we're going to start with that creature Darian. That's my youngest child. He would send men to my business at a certain point looking for sexual services. He used social media and he used free sex sites to just absolutely place me under siege.
And then Craigslist ads posted up,
Yes.
your name, your address, and it says, esthetician to the stars, I want sex, rape fantasy, come to my house, bang on the door, play out the fantasy, and you actually have men come to your house, come to your door, banging on the door. Like 5 men make it to the door. You estimate 35 others texting saying, I'm circling the block, that are coming to play out a rape fantasy with you.
Yes. And when I'd yell through the door, go away, I would watch the handle being jiggled. I didn't know that this person was to be persistent. I didn't know why they were even coming by.
You didn't know about the Craigslist ad at the time.
Know.
You just know all of a sudden men are banging on my door
and trying to
get
come in. Correct. And there were flyers on the boulevard with these horribly crude, vulgar Photoshop pictures.
What was on
the
flyers?
First time is free, Dawn DeLuise, my business address, and they were scattered all along the streets of Santa Monica Boulevard.
And these are all along Santa Monica Boulevard. They're blowing in the wind, and they've actually sent them to people as well.
Yes, via email attachments they did.
Right, they sent them to your church, friends, family members.
Each step of the way in this process, I had one strong confidant and friend that I could rely on, and that was Edward Feinstein. He called me in the morning and he called me at night. How are you? Any more texts? Any more messages? Maybe you should shut your phone off, he finally said.
And the he that's sending these messages in your mind at the time is who?
Gabriel Suarez.
You believe to the core of your soul these are coming from Gabriel Suarez.
Coming up.
Police are making noises that they're going to drop this case. Nobody seems to be stepping up and helping. Did you send a text message that said, we need to lie to these cops?
We now return to the Hollywood facialist accused of hiring a hitman.
You believe to the core of your soul these are coming from Gabriel Suarez?
Absolutely, because Feinstein would tell me he saw Gabriel Suarez skulking around my car. He saw Gabriel Suarez at the dumpsters behind our building. He saw Gabriel Suarez peeking in our window. I had a hairstylist when you first walked in. There would be an occasion or two where she would text me and say, Gabriel Suarez is standing right here looking in our window, texting, and looking around in kind of an inquisitive way. And I would say to her, let me know if it continues and I'll tell the landlord.
At this point, you're getting hundreds and hundreds of texts and calls. Somebody's watching your house, taking pictures, photoshopping damage to your car, and you have this friendship with Feinstein who's telling you, I'm seeing Suarez around this. You believe this because you trust him, he's a friend, and you have a little history with Suarez that
a nuisance.
You don't put it, you'd say, I wouldn't put it past him. You believe this is Suarez. You're confiding in Feinstein what he's doing to you. You're saying, he's driving me nuts. You're venting to Feinstein. You're telling him all this. He's saying, well, I saw him at the dumpster. I saw him by your car. I saw him here. I saw him there. He's planted the seed and he's fanning the flames.
Correct.
Then someone that you now believe to be him post something on your parking space there. There's a place there that says reserved for.
Right.
And they changed that in a very lewd way.
They did.
Then Dawn's nightmare escalated. She says her stalker began to target her 2 daughters and ex-husband. Dawn was horrified to see her innocent daughters' faces photoshopped onto pornographic images scattered in the streets. Dawn says knowing her entire family was now involved in this ordeal filled her with even more terror. I want to go inside your head for a minute. Tires are getting slashed, people are banging on your door, all of this vulgar stuff is being said, and here's the daughter posted, loose college girl, come see me at my lovely estate, etc.
And do you know what, Dr. Phil, my girls reached a point where they didn't want to be around me anymore when they were getting this. They said, Mama, if you didn't have a stalker, we wouldn't be having these things done to us. And it was just devastating on so many levels. I felt like I had a virus and everybody I came in contact with was going to catch it.
Did you ever go to the police?
Yes.
How many times?
At least 5. I went 4 times in North Hollywood and 1 time in West Hollywood.
You're saying, I'm being cyber-stalked, I'm being stalked, and what are they telling you in North Hollywood?
I started using the word armor. We only deal with arson, robbery, murder, or rape. Anything else, you're on your own. Basically, hire a private detective, install video cameras. Maybe you should talk to these individuals and call us while they're standing there. Things which were pretty much impossible and improbable for me to do at the moment when I was in fear.
When did you talk to Detective McCauley?
In late February of 2014, a church member who was on the receiving end of one of those emails, which denigrated my daughter, he said, I can help you with this. I have a friend who works at the cybercrime unit to try and help you.
How'd you feel about that?
I felt very, very relieved. I couldn't text Feinstein quick enough to tell him I finally found someone who was going to work the case. And the stalking stopped at that exact moment.
But as you continue your conversations with McCauley, you began to fear that he was running out of steam, that he wasn't going to continue the investigation and the prosecution of this case. Because he was telling you what?
Specifically, he said, my boss told me I have to drop this case if you can't come up with a few people that have seen these stalkings. And I said, well, I've already told you in all our conversation there haven't been any witnesses to this that's going on. And he says, but have you talked to people about it? Maybe they have. Maybe if you talk to them, they'll recall something that they didn't tell you about. This is exactly how the conversation went. And I was terrified that it was going to be dropped. So I parroted those exact words back to my friends who said, well, in that case, I don't want this to start back up. I'll say thus and so and help you.
Did you also send a text message that said, we're going to lie to the police because they just don't seem motivated?
Yes, I did.
You recruited people to lie to the police.
Friends of mine.
To make it look worse than it was. To get them to take action to stop this person.
Yes.
And McCauley actually talked about that when he was interviewed on 2020. Let's take a look at what he says.
He provided me with text that seemed to indicate that Miss DeLuise had asked him to lie to me.
Dawn, lying to these damn cops to get them to step up. I'm going to tell them Gabriel was in my apartment last night and is now threatening me with bodily harm.
At that point, he thinks he's dealing with a liar. And he has the text message where you say you have found someone to take him out. Did you or did you not solicit someone to kill this man?
Coming up.
I got even more detailed than some other texts saying, I wish this person would even enter my home and I'd kill him myself. I took it very, very far.
Was your definition of a solution in your mind killing someone? Would that be a solution?
We now return to the Hollywood facialist accused of hiring a hitman.
Tonight's shock in Hollywood as beauty salon owner Dawn DeLuise is held on $1 million bail. Now, she's famous as the skin specialist to the stars. Her client list reads like an A-list Oscar party.
Did you or did you not solicit someone to kill this man?
I did not.
Why do they say you did?
They found texts where I was venting to Edward Feinstein how I felt during the worst time of it while I was under siege. It was one of those, oh, I could kill this person. I wish I could do it with my own bare hands. I should find someone to take him out. It was that type of venting.
We've all done that. We've all said, oh my God, I could kill that person. It's not what you did. You sent a text to someone that said, I have met someone, I have found someone that can do this deed for me.
Correct.
I found someone who's going to take Gabriel out. His name, Chris Guiley. And he's an ex-Detroit Lions quarterback. He's 6'7", 315 pounds.
Yes.
You had met this person in Big Bear a few weeks earlier.
Yes.
It's just been, the mental anguish I've suffered, I mean, is far more than any type of football injury I've ever had.
Did you discuss it with him?
No, I did not. I told him I had a stalker, but we never talked about any of this.
You didn't actually make an offer to him? You
Absolutely
actually engaged him.
not. No.
So he didn't know you were talking about him?
He did not. I got even more detailed than some other texts saying, I wish this person would even enter my home and I'd kill him myself. I took it very, very far in exploding to people. Had I thought for a moment, am I seriously going to commit a crime where I murder someone? Absolutely not.
Was your definition of a solution in your mind killing someone?
No.
Would that be a solution?
No.
But you described it as a solution in a text message.
I did.
The police are making noises that they're going to drop this case. Hundreds and hundreds of these harassing emails are going on. Nobody seems to be stepping up and helping. How did you feel at this point?
I just loved my life. It was a quiet life and it was a simple life, but it was my life and it was perfect. And when I look back, when I'm forced to face these texts that I wrote, Dr. Phil, taken out of context, it makes me look, the way I was described in one article was as a bumbling, vicious fool. And I just didn't know if it was ever going to stop. It kept getting worse and worse and worse. My business partner of 8 years said, I'm leaving. And by the time that happened, I just thought to myself that my business is going to die because she pays me rent.
Did you ever think about talking to Suarez?
I was terrified of him.
Did you ever think about hiring a lawyer or a private detective to go talk to him?
I couldn't afford to. I thought about that many times.
Did you ever harass him back?
Suarez?
Yes.
I do remember one specific occasion. I had to stop Ed Feinstein from throwing a brick through his window. And he was going to take a picture of Suarez and Photoshop it onto a nude body. I remember saying, please don't. This is too close for comfort. I'm going to get caught. And we didn't do that. There were times I wanted to retaliate against him. That's something I kind of went back and forth with Feinstein about.
Did you ever text him that you were going to post a Craigslist ad? Did you ever do it?
No.
Here's what you said. I'm putting together a Craigslist ad directing guys to Gabriel's front door. No need to call first. Just show up and I'll be waiting in bed with a blindfold on. I hate sinking to this sleazy level, but the cops pretty much told me that I should.
Yes.
You said, I found Gabriel's sister on Facebook. Bothering his family might be a way to get at him. And so you're contemplating doing all the things he's doing to you.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you?
Because it would have been wrong. I wanted to give him a taste of his own medicine, but I never went beyond venting about it.
Right. And there's no evidence that you ever did anything to harass him.
Right.
Coming up, a shocking twist. Was Dawn really being stalked by a rival, or was she possibly being set up by a man she trusted with her deepest secrets? That's next.
We now return to the Hollywood facialist accused of hiring a hitman.
Hollywood facialist to the stars, Dawn DeLuise, says she endured months of terrifying harassment. Craigslist ads sending strange men to her door, her face photoshopped on lewd images scattered across the streets, flat tires and menacing calls. At this point, she says she still believed the man behind it all was her rival, Gabriel Suarez. During all of this, she felt like she had one person on her side that she could confide in, her friend, Edward Feinstein. That's why she says she texted Feinstein saying she wanted to get rid of Suarez. But according to Dawn, her story began to take a shocking, dark twist that you will not believe. Gabriel Suarez, the man Dawn was so very sure was terrorizing her, barely even knew she existed. Dawn started to wonder if her real stalker was someone much closer, someone she trusted, a man she confided her deepest secrets to, a man she says used every single word she told him against her in a vicious plot to set her up. She claims that man is Edward Feinstein. While Dawn was begging the police for help to stop Suarez from stalking her, Her, quote, friend, Edward Feinstein, was going behind her back and telling detectives Dawn was stalking herself. Detectives say he was the one who ultimately provided them with the text messages they used as evidence against her. So Feinstein goes in to the police and says she's doing all this to herself to get at Suarez.
Right.
And so the person that you think you're sending in to bolster your case flips and says you're doing all this to yourself.
Yes.
And that you've asked him to lie. And here's the proof, here's her text message. I'm gonna tell you the truth, she's doing all this to herself. And she's solicited this guy to murder him. So they come crashing in and arrest you.
It's important to note at this point that Feinstein had tried to get me arrested 3 times prior to this. When the flyers were on the boulevard at one point, he took one to the North Hollywood police and said, "This woman is sending out sex services." On a second time, he called my landlord and said, "I'm someone who found my young son looking at Craigslist ads online that this woman's hosting sex parties. You should evict her." The third time, when he threw flyers in the front of my building, he called and had said, "Why don't you have her arrested?" So by the time he runs into Officer McCulley, he says, "You should have her arrested." And that time he was successful in doing it.
What's his motive?
Whatever it was with his previous victims, Dr. Phil, I don't know. There was not an ill word ever spoken between us. I was professional and kind to him. He became a confidant and a friend. And I just think it's pathological. I think it's sadistic, and I think it's psychotic. And there's a history of this happening with others in the same position of trust.
I'm sure if he was sitting here today, he would deny it.
No, that's not what he'd say.
What would he say?
He'd say I was sitting at his house helping him do it. That was the basis of my arrest. I was stalking myself.
That's what he ultimately told the police.
Correct, yes.
So at this point, they come in and arrest you on the 5th of March for solicitation of murder.
Dawn DeLuise entered a not guilty plea. Prosecutors believe she tried to hire someone to kill a rival esthetician. Investigators say she believed Suarez was cyber-stalking her.
At what point in the process did it hit you that it was not Suarez, that it was Feinstein?
I kind of think when Officer McCulley arrested me and he said, "Do you even know why I'm here?" And I said, "No." And I had plenty of time to think about that thereafter when I was in jail, and I said, "Feinstein, that's the person that's been protecting me. But that's why I'm in jail? I didn't understand." And when I finally was able to talk to, I think it was either my daughter or my business partner on the phone, they immediately told Detective McCulley that they never trusted Feinstein from the beginning, but didn't know how to tell me that because he was a close friend, but they thought he was creepy and strange.
So you realized it wasn't Suarez when you were arrested?
Yes.
You go to jail for 10 months, $1 million bail. They offer you plea deals.
Yes, I had a public defender at first, and he was saying to me early on, they just need you to accept a felony, and we can decide what that is later. But the DA's office won't dismiss this case because it's in the media.
Why were they wanting to get out of it at this point?
I think they realized they didn't have enough for a case. That's what I felt.
Why didn't you take a plea deal and go home?
Because I didn't do anything wrong. I was standing my ground, I was under assault, and I knew I was not guilty of a crime.
Coming up, what Edward Feinstein has to say about his involvement.
I'm the one that originally told the police when they contacted me about Dawn's ruse.
We now return to Dr. Phil's interview with the Hollywood facialist accused of hiring a hitman.
So you go to trial.
Yes.
And you're in trial for 17 days. And the jury was out for how long?
Between a half hour and 40 minutes.
Tell me how you felt when the verdict was read.
It was just an absolutely wonderful feeling, and at the core of it, I hadn't lost my self-respect or my dignity, and more than that, my children could now look at me and say, "Mommy, you did the right thing."
Feinstein, he's not been convicted of anything here. So at this point, these are all allegations of him doing anything wrong. And in fact, he says that it boggles his mind that you would say these things, that people would be suspect. Here's what he said.
I'm the one that originally told the police when they contacted me about Don's ruse. So for me to be named a suspect was just mind-boggling to me.
He has a criminal history, correct? You know that now?
Yes, I do.
And what do you know about that?
Well, I was aware when he came to me through Nick Prugo that he had just gotten out of jail. That's how the two of them met, was in Men's Central Jail. He had gone after a pet groomer in Los Angeles and stolen $100,000 from her. He had embezzled $60,000 from a glass manufacturing business owner up in San Francisco.
Could we agree that you need to pick who you hang out with a little more carefully? I mean, two guys that just got out of jail, and you're going to start getting in business with one of them and picking the other to be your confidant. If you want to know if somebody's going to con you, you need to find out if they've been conning the people they went with before.
I've had some clients over the past tell me that I'm the only one that cared about them, and they've been grateful, and I just... so stupid.
If you don't learn from it, it's just penalty. If you learn from it, it's at least tuition.
That's true. That is true.
It at least becomes an education.
That's a good point.
Instead of just a penalty. And you want to learn from it. Does it mean that you become callous and you don't help people? You do, but you do it in such a way that you don't expose yourself. At this point, you've filed civil suits against the county and some individuals.
Yes.
And you want to hold people accountable for the reckless manner in which you've been prosecuted, correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct. I feel that I was actually victimized by the system and what happened to me. Had the initial finding out who was stalking me take place and arrest occurred, I'd still have my practice and everything would be fine. I'd still be the person who never had to go through any of this and who never was in trouble with the law. I would be still out there working if, you know, justice had been served where it was due.
Jamon, why do you think they went to trial on this with so little evidence?
Well, I think what happened was that they overcharged the case, number one, but they were already in. They'd given interviews to 2020. There was press on the case. They couldn't appear as though they had made a mistake. I also think they thought that Ms. DeLuise was going to take a plea deal. And I think part of the problem was that the initial investigation, they believed that Ms. DeLuise and Mr. Feinstein were in cahoots. That's what they initially thought. And it backfired because they were never able to connect the dots that they thought that they were going to connect. And it became a premature investigation, and it was a premature arrest on Ms. DeLuise.
Coming up, Dawn's daughter speaks out about her mother's jail time and being a target in the hoax.
Sometimes I still think about it, I'm like, is this my life? Is this real? I just couldn't believe it.
We now return to the Hollywood facialist accused of hiring a hitman.
Let's bring your daughter in and see what her thinking is about all of this.
Hi.
Jane, Dr. Phil, how are you?
Good.
Have a seat next to your mom over here.
Sure.
It's good to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
First off, I want to say I'm so sorry that you've been dragged through all of this for now 2 years. Unbelievable. How did you learn that your mother had been arrested?
Well, she had called from the detention facility, and I thought it was a prank call because that's, you know, what we had been getting. So I didn't pick it up, and it kept ringing, and the voicemail said that it was, you know, Dawn DeLuise calling from the correctional facility.
Did you ever in your wildest dreams think that your mother would be in jail on a murder charge?
No. No, sometimes I still think about it, I'm like, is this my life? Is this real? Like, my mom, of all people, all of the success that she's built up over almost 20 years, and no, I just couldn't believe it when it happened, no.
And when you went to see her in jail, what were those visits like?
I was sad for her, so sad. No one ever deserves to see, their parent behind bars. Sorry. I'll never forget, the first visit, seeing her roots grow out and her weight plummet, and it was jarring.
Were you able to touch each other? Was it through the glass?
It was always through glass, always.
So you couldn't actually touch her?
Never could I touch her, no.
Were you concerned about her safety in jail?
Not really. My mom's a tough cookie. I was worried about her mental health.
Did people try to bully you? Did they try to...
No, they wanted a lot of skincare advice. That's one thing that all women seem to have in common, and I think that as a result of that, I was held in a higher esteem.
Did you have a practice in there? Did you work with people?
I did. I took bran cereal and I mashed it up and I mixed it with a little Neutrogena, and there you have a face scrub. So they were able to
so you
exfoliate.
took bran cereal?
Yes, and smashed it up and mixed it with a little Neutrogena soap, and they were able to exfoliate their skin.
In prison? So
Correct.
You're doing facials
doing the
in
little
prison?
facials and oh yeah, girl's got to keep up on her appearances no matter where she is.
Why did you lose so much weight?
Stress and the diet isn't nutritional, and it's sparse. It's meant to keep people alive, but to not really nourish and provide for them. A lot of peanut butter and bologna and starches and whatnot.
You said you made up stuff to do facials. Do you have makeup in there?
We do. As a matter of fact, we came up with one of the best eyeliners ever if you mix it with toothpaste. On the commissary, you can buy a small little eyeliner pencil, which isn't any good, but the toothpaste is like solid, hard tar that they give you. And if you mix it, if you break open that pencil and mix that together, and then you use a sharp, small golf pencil, as you can line your eyes really nicely and add a little mascara, and it lasts quite a long time. It makes you feel better about yourself. You know, you haven't really lost your, the way you feel and your self-esteem and your appearance.
You have been resoundingly vindicated here. So that part of this is over. Is the stalking and harassment over? You have been resoundingly vindicated here. So that part of this is over. Is the stalking and harassment over?
No, unfortunately it is not. While I was in jail, my family was targeted several times. We've had someone walk directly into our home looking for whatever they were sent there for.
You said someone walked into your home?
Yes. Actually, my ex-husband, who I'm living with, was home alone, and he heard the front door open, and suddenly in the foyer area appears a strange man. The young man began to apologize and saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't know. I thought I was coming here to meet someone else."
So this is all continuing on?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It feels like right where we left off. I've thought about moving. I'm like, let me see what my finances look like. I'm being driven out of my own house if I move.
My dad used to say you better spend 5% of your time deciding whether the deal you got's a good deal or a bad deal, and 95% deciding what you're going to do about it. The deal you got's a bad deal. You got victimized here, no question about it. And what you're going to do about it is you're going to put your life back together. You've got a skill set. You're obviously really good at what you do. You don't give your power to some jerk like this to take that away and decide that all of a sudden Dawn's going to get small and take herself out of the game. People respect somebody that stands up for themselves, and you could have pled out on this deal a long time ago, and you didn't do it. And I think you're going to find people that are going to say, yeah, I respect this woman. I want to help her. I want to deal with her.
Oh, thank you.
Tell her I'm right.
Oh yeah. I think he knows what he's talking about.
I think so too. Excellent advice. I'm going to follow that for sure.
And if I can help you with that, I will.
Thank you.
And I mean that. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr.
I appreciate
Stahl.
it. Well, thank you.
you.
Nicholas Prugo and Edward Feinstein have both been charged with 3 counts of felony stalking and 1 count of solicitation to commit sexual assault. Both men have pled not guilty and are free on bail. If convicted of all charges, Feinstein faces up to 7 years in county jail and Prugo faces up to 14 years in state prison. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bounce, bounce, all the girlies bounce. Take 'em to my house. 1,000 times. Memories can kill ya, but I didn't hear ya. I thought that I could fly, but woke up on the asphalt. I swear there was the last time. I've always been naive. Call it